Masai Ujiri is under fire right now as multiple reports have come out criticizing a lot of the moves that Masai Ujiri made, including the Immanuel Quickley, Kelly Olynyk extensions this offseason, and the Raptors' projected win total for next season is looking very ugly. So the Raptors front office is taking some heat for moves they made, some moves they didn't make, and now the Raptors are projected to be one of the worst teams in basketball going into next season without a lot of cap flexibility. So we're going to break down what these reports are saying about this Toronto Raptors group, the criticism that is getting thrown the way of the Toronto Raptors front office, and whether or not I agree with all the stuff that's getting thrown the way, because I know it was a polarizing offseason. Some fans are very happy with the direction of this Toronto Raptors team, and there are a lot of people outspoken in our comment section everywhere about how bad the squad is. And essentially, there's some NBA reporters, NBA insiders singing a similar tune regarding this Toronto Raptors team. So I'll dive into all the what everyone's saying and whether or not I agree or not. But before we dive into any of that, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single update regarding the Toronto Raptors, and we have some very, very exciting things planned entering this upcoming season, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. But let's dive into it, because John Hollinger of The Athletic came out and had some very deep criticisms of the Toronto Raptors off season, and he's an insider, he just, analytics guy, the no dunks crew's always gassed about, but basically, he came out and really ripped into some of the moves the Toronto Raptors made this offseason. Essentially, he said that, "I'm not sure if the Toronto Raptors offseason will be one that turns the tide. The rebuilding Raptors gave a 2-year, $25 million extension to a 33-year-old Kelly Olynyk and immediately watched him look dead leg in the Olympics. And the Barnes extension, see above, was defensible, but also felt like a bit of a capitulation." So essentially came out and saying that, first the Kelly Olynyk, so the first criticism there. And that happened, wasn't really the off-season, leading into the off-season, but Kelly Olynyk, or maybe it was off-season, or it felt like a very long time ago when this extension was given, but for a guy that's 33, and especially if you just looked at Kelly Olynyk's game in the Olympics, I could see why that warrants criticism, why that warrants some roasting, from different teams. And you can also factor that in with the Raptors gave up a first-round pick to acquire Kelly Olynyk alongside an Ochai Agbaji. And Agbaji, a lot of people are low on him after his summer league performance, so that is what it is. So maybe Kelly Olynyk's the key part, and then you're extending him to a big, big contract. But I'd argue a little bit differently. So yes, it is worrisome how he didn't look that great in the Olympics, but I think the style of play in the Olympics, and specifically the construction of that, not Toronto Raptors roster, but the Team Canada team in the Olympics just didn't really fit Kelly Olynyk well. The Team Canada squad needed some bruisers, needed some defenders down low to play alongside, because frankly, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, RJ Barrett, those guys were going to get their buckets. Jamal Murray in theory would have too, but he struggled in the Olympics as well. But essentially, the Team Canada was more apt for a guy like Dwight Powell. Heck, even Trey Lyles playing a little bit more defense, being a bit more mobile than a Kelly Olynyk out there in the front lines, because we were extremely small. We didn't have a ton of rebounding. So Kelly Olynyk's skill set of being a passer, being a shooter, being an offensive, really versatile center wasn't really needed on that Team Canada team that was extremely small and needed some front court beef rather than some front court finesse, because guys like Shai, heck, even Dylan Brooks was playing pretty well for most of that tournament. Essentially, they were doing it all on the offensive end. So I think Kelly Olynyk's poor play, at least in not a lot of run, was more situated for the Team Canada construction, whereas this Toronto Raptors team needs some shooting around a Scottie Barnes. And, RJ Barrett's still a team, they're teammates in the NBA and Team Canada, but I think the Raptors need a bit more finesse, need that playmaking, and that's Darko Rajakovic's style. He likes bigs, he likes players that can pass, can facilitate, do types of things. So yes, it might be a little bit of a risk, especially if Kelly Olynyk is more slow-footed, but from what he was able to provide last season in terms of to close out last year, I'm not that disappointed in terms of that extension. But the real meat of the criticism comes the way of Immanuel Quickley, and basically Kelly Olynyk, again, pulling up his stats, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, already broke him down. We all watched Kelly Olynyk play last season. But essentially, however, the move that raised the most eyebrows was the Immanuel Quickley 5-year, $163 million deal that can zoom up to $175 million if he hits certain incentives. His transition from playing mostly off the ball in New York to mostly on it in Toronto was a bit hard on the eyes at the end of last season. And more than the top line numbers make it look, the $32 million he'll make this season was just barely south of the $35 million max for a player with 4 years of experience. He can actually get within a few centimeters of that max if the incentives come through. So John Hollinger went on to say also that even as ever with deals like this, another question that also comes up: against who were the Toronto Raptors bidding against? Quickley was a restricted free agent, giving the Raptors all of the leverage. Meanwhile, I'm struggling to find the rival team that was going to commit to paying him anywhere near that kind of money on an offer sheet. So lots of stuff said regarding Immanuel Quickley and that extension for the Toronto Raptors and things that were going on there. Where I get it. It was a lot of money. I was shocked. My initial reactions was that was a lot of bread thrown the way of Immanuel Quickley, but we kind of forced ourselves into that situation. You're having to bring him in, but again, that doesn't warrant, giving a guy, overpaying a guy if it doesn't make sense. But I still think it's a move that makes sense for the Toronto Raptors. And I'll come back to a couple of points he made. Firstly, Immanuel Quickley looked fine on the ball. The Toronto Raptors did look bad with, I guess with Immanuel Quickley on the ball, but that wasn't the fact of Immanuel Quickley playing poorly. Yes, he had some up and down games. Yes, he wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he looked really comfortable with this Toronto Raptors team, especially shooting the ball at the point guard position, playing defense, facilitating. I thought a lot of games where the team actually had some NBA caliber players around Immanuel Quickley. He impressed me as a facilitator because we knew, yes, he played alongside Jalen Brunson a ton of times with the New York Knicks. So he's more of a shooter, a bucket getter, a scorer and stuff. So the question marks were, yes, this guy that we're bringing in is going to knock down some shots. Is going to be able to do some different things out there on the offensive end. But can he run a team? Can he be that point guard? And I thought he showed he was able to do that when especially there was NBA caliber players around him. But the Raptors were depleted with injuries, depleted with off the court issues, all that stuff. Not like head case stuff, just unfortunate events that went on for the key players in this Raptors roster. So we're going to lose a ton of games if that's the case, if that's the direction and stuff. So Immanuel Quickley, I thought in the games where things worked, it looked really good. And really impressed me with his shooting, with things, space the floor. I mean, we can bring up Immanuel Quickley's stats in terms of what he was able to do for this Raptors team. Well, it's for the entire season. So half with the Toronto Raptors team, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, but shot 40% from the 3-point line. Didn't take many corner threes, but close to 50% of all of his shots were from the 3-point line. So on an extremely high volume, shot close to 40%. And, during a transition year, during, a lot of stuff going on, I mean, that's an impressive season for Immanuel Quickley. And then the second bit of criticism, which I'll bring back onto the screen, right? Who was bidding against Immanuel Quickley? Who was going out there, and why did the Toronto Raptors have to pay him that much money? Well, I think that's a chicken or the egg scenario because, frankly, I think there's a lot of teams, or a few teams, that would certainly be interested in paying that type of money for an Immanuel Quickley. If you tell me the Orlando Magic, they had the opportunity to get Immanuel Quickley on their roster, a 3-point shooting, young, two-way point guard to play alongside Franz Wagner, who's abysmal from the 3-point line, Paolo, not a lot of shooting centers. If they can make that happen, then, they would have certainly dug into an Immanuel Quickley, bring him in. And there was a ton of rumors about the Magic, about teams like the San Antonio Spurs being interested in bringing Immanuel Quickley at one of those types of contracts, for a large chunk of last season. When he was with the Knicks, when he was with the Raptors, those were ongoing rumors and reports, but they fizzled off at the end of the season. Why is that the case? Well, it's because the Toronto Raptors and Immanuel Quickley knew that they were going to come to an agreement. They knew the sort of range in terms of a contract it was going to look like, and there wasn't a lot of drama. So the Orlando Magic, the teams that would be interested in bringing Immanuel Quickley, aren't going to make those reports, aren't going to leak stuff to the athletic reporters if they know that they don't really have a shot at getting him, because the Raptors and Immanuel Quickley were going to come to a long-term extension. So while, yes, there wasn't a ton of reported suitors in terms of teams that would offer that extension and all that type of stuff, I think there would have been if the Raptors weren't willing, didn't make it clear that they wanted to bring Immanuel Quickley back. So I think it's a little bit of a disingenuous take and stuff along those lines. And basically, John Holland, not disingenuous because I'm sure he believes it, but I don't agree with the sort of takeaway from that. And he finished off saying the Raptors are on the books with more than $70 million committed to Barnes and Quickley in each of the next 4 seasons after the upcoming one. Yes, there are other reasons for limited optimism, including RJ Barrett looking great, for instance, and the same front office has pulled some rabbits out of their hats before. But in the moment, however, it feels like that the Raptors have painted themselves in a bit of a salary cap corner without a roster that is worthy of such commitment. So this is the final point from John Hollinger, which is the one I actually agree with the most. Because, again, we heard Masai Ujiri talk a ton about consistency, about flexibility, having the ability to make some different moves, make some different adjustments to this roster, whether it be via trades, whether it be via, some free agent signings and stuff. And we didn't really sign any new big name players. And we ate up a lot of our cap space, which we were forced to do after the trade deadline in terms of things that are going on, with this Toronto Raptors group. And the team is projected to be really bad. That's the really unfortunate thing to say about it. The Toronto Raptors are projected to be 26-56. And while I'm a diehard Raptors fan, optimist, all that type of stuff, we have an absolutely horrific schedule to start off next season. And if we lose a ton of games to start off next year, I think the Toronto Raptors team is going to blow it up, trade away, your guys like your Bruce Browns, your Jakob Poeltl, and try to bottom out, go for a Cooper Flag and all that type of stuff. But if we win those games, then we can be better. But we'll know pretty early on whether or not how bad this Toronto Raptors team is. So, the fact that we do have a ton of money locked in, it is a bit concerning, especially, the Kelly Olynyk deal if it's not, tradable and stuff. But we have very tradable contracts in terms of Jakob Poeltl, Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher is not expiring. We didn't dump money into Gary Trent Jr. So I'm not really disappointed. I think the schedule really blessed us in terms of our ability to have some decision making early on into the season, whether or not what the moves make sense or whatnot, whether we should be buyers, sellers, or not. Maybe we're a year away. But I'm not here yelling at Masai Ujiri saying it was a horrible offseason. Again, there are some moves I think could have facilitated this rebuild faster if we're bad, but again, I don't think it's a bad idea to really give this team an opportunity to see how good they are at the start of the season, especially where we're going to have some good tests to see whether or not the Raptors can win games or not. So basically, I'm happy. I'm not happy, but I'm not discontent with the offseason the Toronto Raptors had. It's a reality of the roster that we kind of had and put ourselves in. I still would like to keep Pascal Siakam, but we'll see how it all shakes out. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about Masai Ujiri's offseason. Do you agree with a lot of the criticism that's going on regarding this team? And how do you think the Toronto Raptors are going to fare next season for the NBA? But let me know in the comment section down below. You guys best think it's hard. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.